DARAP, as the name implies, is Data Repository for Policy Advocacy project, which means that we are dealing with two things: good data that is available for researchers to use to generate evidence for policy making. Now, that basically means that we've identified some problems in the policy making and policy influencing space that we are trying to address with this project. We realize that many of our policies seem not to be data-driven or evidence-driven. And to be able to solve that, we need to generate the evidence that is needed for the right policies to be made. And when I talk about policies here, I want us to focus not only on the state or politicians, but also on people that are generally in the development practice space. So those who use evidence for their work, okay, not only politicians, okay? And what we've identified is that sometimes researchers are communicating to themselves. They may generate the evidence, but that evidence may not be used because it's not accessible. And if I say accessible, I'm not talking just about physical accessibility, but those who use the evidence do not understand what researchers are talking about, because sometimes the language in which it's presented is not accessible to them. So we are trying to address these issues by, first of all, making the data available in a source that can be accessed by the researchers, but also training the researchers in communication, how to communicate their evidence in a way that those who use the evidence to inform policy can understand. Because if you do not understand the evidence that is being generated, you are less likely to use it. So for that reason, we bring the data together, we train researchers to communicate the evidence, but there is also, if you like, some intermediaries these are CSOs, NGOs, and people whose business really is for policy advocacy. Normally, academics are not too good at policy advocacy. There are people who are trained to do that, or people whose mandate is more to advocate for policy. So these CSOs, we bring them together with researchers to communicate so that they can use the evidence that is generated by these researchers in their policy advocacy work that they do. At the end of the day, we want to create a situation where the CSOs, the policy advocacy groups, use the evidence, but that evidence also reaches the people who need to use the evidence for making decisions. And it could be decisions in policy making, it could be decisions in development practice. So basically, that is what we've been doing so far. So far, we've been able to create a data repository where we store data that is already available. Of course, we've faced some challenges there in getting researchers to freely upload or to make their data available for us to upload in the repository. We're overcoming that problem by talking to these researchers on the need to make this data available for others to use, for students to use, to generate evidence. Because most researchers, after collecting their data and using it to address their own research problems, that's it, they move on to another project. But that data can be used by others to generate more evidence. And by so doing, it makes the cost, the money that is invested in this data collection processes more efficient. So we've been able to create that. We've been able to organize training for researchers to communicate their research better. We've been able to organize trainings for CSOs to understand research and communicate it to policymakers better. We've commissioned 6 synthesis reports on food systems, various issues pertaining to food systems, topics like food safety, topics like food waste, topics like food cultures, and so on. And so these synthesis reports are available that can be accessed. We've generated policy briefs from these synthesis reports. We are creating short video documentaries from these synthesis reports that we can upload on our website and also share with those who need to know what evidence we have generated so that it can influence policy. So broadly speaking, these are the results, the things that we've generated so far from this project. So a few of the challenges we've faced so far is convincing researchers and institutions who own the data to make them available to be freely uploaded onto our repository for others to use. Some of them are concerned about, whether they are allowed to do so, whether their donors and the funders allow them to be able to do this. But we keep resolving that, and once the problem is resolved with each data set, that allows us to be able to upload it. Another problem we are facing is getting researchers to talk to each other. Sometimes, you have different disciplines dealing with we're talking about food systems, various disciplines. Economists may be dealing with food systems, agronomists may be dealing with food systems, and various other researchers. Getting them to talk to each other so that we can get a good synthesis of the same issue that they are addressing in different ways is a challenge. But these fora that we create tries to solve those problems by bringing different researchers together to talk to each other, and by so doing they identify themselves, they know what each other is doing, and then we can create a better synthesis of the evidence that is available.